Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining today's session. I am Chetan Gowda, marketing specialist at Navintic. So, welcome to our webinar on the future is cloud native. Are you ready? So, today we will discuss how modernizing Linux and open source workloads on Microsoft Azure, powered by AMD, can help you to build an AI-ready infrastructure. So, we are pleased to have Rajat Tiwari, Senior Solutions Consultant, Cloud at Navintic, who will share insights and best practices. Please post your questions in the chat. We will address them during the Q&A. Over to you, Rajat.
So I'll just introduce myself that I'm working as a cloud consultant here in Noventic, and it's been a very smooth journey so far that I have had here. And it's been almost 2 years that I've been working with Noventic India. And today our session would be an amalgamation of Linux and enterprise and modern scalable workloads to be presented in AI. No, not like that. It will be very simple, Linux, and how can Linux be a catalyst to implement and to have an AI ready ecosystem. Okay, so let's start with the session now. Yeah. So driving AI transformation, why Azure for open source? Why Azure being the right choice for Linux workloads? So it is very simple to understand that. So as I said that this session would be very simple, vanilla to understand that how Linux can be a catalyst as far as your operating systems, as your backend platform is concerned, and how you can modernize your infra and make it AI ready. Yeah, so the first slide is here. Why open source? Why Azure for open source? And why is it the right choice for the Linux workloads? So there is a literature mentioned here that AI is no longer experimental. It's already influencing decision making, automation, analytics, and customer experience. Most organizations want AI, but the real blocker is, this is important, but the real blocker is not skills. It is the infrastructure readiness. So I'll just explain why Linux has been put up here and why we are discussing about why are we discussing about artificial intelligence ready infrastructure. Okay. So as we start and as we come down to this slide, I can see more people joining in, but not a problem. We'll not be restarting it. So we need to understand it very clearly that when we talk about artificial intelligence, so most of the workloads, most of the platforms of artificial intelligence, they are built upon open source platforms. Okay, and when we say open source, so Linux is the pioneer, right? Linux, and there are different flavors to it, be it Ubuntu, be it the erstwhile CentOS, be it SUSE Linux, be it RHEL, anything. And it's not that without Linux, your AI sources, your AI platforms, workloads would not run. But since Linux being the pioneer, so it is most prominently used throughout the geography, okay, throughout the globe. So when I say all the workloads are majorly built on Linux, so I can talk about Python node, I can talk about Python platforms, Spark, I can talk about Kubernetes, Dockers, containers. That means our microservices are largely dependent on Linux platforms. Okay, I say largely. So now when we have a full-fledgedly modernized infrastructure there, so definitely we have done this transition keeping into mind the futuristic approach for our infrastructure, for our business, and our decision makings. So that means we know that yes, in future, we are going to decide about our business using the data we have, using the data generated, using the business we have done, using the customer service we have provided, using the issues we have resolved for the client. And how is this possible? when we have AI in place. And how can AI be there in place? When we have a good environment, when we have a good infrastructure there in place. So now the story comes down to this whole circle. Okay. If we have a good infrastructure in place, we can have a good artificial intelligence setup in place. If we have a good AI setup in place, then we can have better decision making in place. And then with better decisions, our company can get better revenue, can get better eyeballs, can get better prominence there in the world. But here, as the second point mentions, that artificial intelligence is the need. Artificial intelligence is the want of every organization right now. But the problem is that many people are skilled, and whenever we roll out the job opportunities, everyone says that yes, I want an expert in artificial intelligence, I want an expert in data engineering, data science. But what the actual problem is, the actual problem is the infrastructure that is set up there in many of the organizations. Without naming any, I can quote some examples that I have seen many of my clients wherein infrastructure is extremely expensive. They have taken GPU based servers both on premises as well as on cloud, be it AWS, be it Azure, be it GCP, or any other platform. But the only problem is their infrastructure is not ready for artificial intelligence. They just happen to provision that infrastructure for the legacy workloads on Linux, but they didn't think of modernizing their overall infra, which in turn can help them leverage the artificial intelligence. So now we have talked about a problem. Okay. Slowly, steadily, we will come to know that how can we resolve this problem. So why this conversation matters now, that Linux had been there from a very long time. Artificial intelligence had its invent quite some time back. And so what is the need that we are discussing this thing right now? So I'll just ask all the people, you can answer in chat, that tomorrow, I mean, it's for everybody, be it salesperson here, be it an IT organization, IT centric person here, or maybe somebody from the leadership team. Okay. If somebody in your organization, let's consider a leadership person only, a person from the topmost team. Okay. If he asks anybody from here that what are the AI driven insights, okay, for let's say for your organization, okay, what insights have you deduced, what analysis have you done for a particular KPI, let's say for sales revenue, let's say that for marketing, that how many leads have we generated. Uh, if we want an AI driven insights, AI driven results for these small KPIs, how much of time would anybody who has not adopted AI would take? Okay, you can answer there in chat, but I can say that it may take maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Okay, because it's not something very small. The question is small, the KPI is small, but there is a very large amount of data which is backing this. Okay, and this data is hosted on an infrastructure. So it may take roughly around 3 weeks, 4 weeks, or maybe a month, or maybe 2 months, 3 months, if depending on that how much size of the leads the marketing has generated and how much revenue has the sales team generated so far. It depends on the organization to organization also. But if we enable artificial intelligence on an AI ready infrastructure, then this work is easy to be done within 2 to 3 days, or maybe lesser than that. Okay, so we need to understand that AI adoption and the open source platforms, they are being adopted, they are being leveraged by companies throughout, left, right, and center at a very exorbitant rate. Okay, now the companies who were using Excel files for making their decision making, they are now using Power BI. Those who are using Power BI, they are switching on to other data engineering platforms. Okay, organizations which were doing manual checking of their employee cards, okay, now they are utilizing artificial intelligence. Okay. Because we all know that, as I discussed also before, that most of the Linux platforms, okay, most of the enterprises are using these Linux platforms, okay, MySQL databases, open source databases in, to be precise, containers, Python platforms, Spark, Kubernetes containers, etc. So that means their overall infrastructure is being ready for the modernization. Okay, it is getting ready. But on the flip side, I can see many of the organizations, those who are still stuck on the monolithic architecture. Definitely, at times, their business compliances do not allow them to adopt microservices, but I can see many people are very much resistant. I can say they are very much skeptical in adopting the modernization strategy for their infrastructure also. Okay, and here, even if I leave AI for a while, I can say that not even modernizing your infrastructure and adopting the latest trending technologies, not jumping onto the wagon, is also going to regressively take you around 5 to 6 years back. Okay, as far as technology is concerned. So it's high time that the workloads which were designed for the legacy systems, which were designed for the traditional systems, now they should be modernized so that every organization, they can adopt artificial intelligence for their better decision making, better business insights, and eventually for the good profits their companies can earn. Now, I had been talking about it since beginning. AI ready infrastructure, AI ready infrastructure. What is this AI ready infrastructure? Okay. So I want everybody to just have a look here that what I was talking about. What is this AI ready infrastructure? Just have a glance on it. I'm not saying that please understand it in detail. That's my job to do. Okay, so I'll explain it. When we say AI ready infrastructure, okay, it means any infrastructure that does not slow down your artificial intelligence. Okay. And it's a very, stereotypical understanding there in the market that when we talk about AI ready infrastructure, it is just about the uh, graphics. It's just about the GPUs, but it's not. It is about better compute. It's about better storage performance, better access to your data, and secured access to your data, and overall strong observability. Now, this observability is very much related to the analysis that I was talking about. Analysis with respect to analysis, which leads to business decision making and insights. Okay. So when I say elastic compute, that means any compute that can scale fast, any compute that we can easily scale up. Okay. Any storage, because any AI ready infrastructure, it would need good amount of storage because analysis happens in a jiffy. It happens in a very faster mechanism. Okay. Not on the traditional legacy systems of storage, wherein we can wait for some time. Okay. So secure data access, that means there is no gaps in the security. If your existing Linux based platform, they are not secured enough, random accesses are being provided. There are no restrictions on anybody's access. Maximum amount of privileges are being provided to the people. That means our security is at high risk. And then eventually strong observability, which will lead to better decision making and business insights. So from a business perspective and from technology perspective, if I talk about, so AI is something wherein you can experiment very fast and it is not going to give you any cost shocks. Okay. No cost shocks. You can easily experiment. And based on the analysis, the strong observability will play here. Based on the analysis, you can easily deduce that yes, these are going to be my predictable cost. These are going to be my cost or an estimate which will be incurred. From the technology perspective, we have modern virtual machine families from AMD based instances, from NVIDIA based instances. I'm including GPUs also. Cloud native architecture. Now, if I talk about here, I'll be talking about Azure. So when we say cloud native, so the important factors for any infrastructure, I say infrastructure, not cloud infra, I say any infrastructure, the maximum and the most important services that are included, they are your backend compute powers, your storage, your memory, your security, your networking, your, and very most important, your monitoring and governance. So Azure Cloud provides you with the services which are very much captive to Azure, which are very much native to Azure, native to Microsoft. We have our in-house monitoring systems, we have our in-house governance systems, we have our own virtual machines residing in our data centers. The security is ours, the networking is ours. So we do not have to rent or buy anything from anybody else. Whatever we are providing it by our own self. So the AI readiness is going to be ours only. The infrastructure at the backend, it will be ours. So when all the resources, all the backend services are of a single vendor, that gives you a better performance. Your multiple services are not fragmented. You do not get fragmented monitoring or governance. Everything is going to be visible in a single pane of glass. It will be centrally monitored and centrally managed. We also provide you integration with ample amount of data sources and multiple amount of AI platforms. So I'm not saying that here I'll be promoting only Azure, or I'll just be talking about that just adopt AI platforms initiated by Azure. No, you use or utilize or leverage any AI or data platform, but you need to adopt it. It is high time that every organization start assessing their workloads, start assessing their legacy systems, start assessing their overall performance matrices. Okay. So when we say integration with multiple data and AI platforms, so we give you this technology benefit, which can help you leverage your open source platforms with these latest data sources and AI platforms without blocking your choice. You are free to choose any of the platform for your environment. Moving on to the next slide. The cost of not being AI ready. Okay. So legacy or poorly designed infrastructure leads to slower innovation cycles, higher operational cost, security gaps, poor performance under AI workloads. Many AI initiatives fail not because models are bad, but because infrastructure becomes the bottleneck. This is my own curated line. Yeah. So I'll just go one by one on each and every point. Slower innovation cycles, that means you are not able to experiment anymore. It would be very slower process of experimenting because your infrastructure is not ready right now. It will take good amount of time in integrating multiple data sources, integrating multiple or other AI platforms. Your data sources would not be compatible with the current infrastructure. So that means understand it in this way that you wanted to analyze one of the custom based application and its database, and your underlying infrastructure is, let's say, Linux only, but it is an erstwhile one. It was being used on CentOS on the versions that were being used 8 to 9 years ago, which is still happening. I've seen many of the people utilizing 10 to 12 years old models of CentOS, Ubuntu. I've seen that. So if our systems are very much legacy in nature, they are very much traditional in nature, but the data sources, they have become successors now. They are trending in the systems now. Okay, if this compatibility, if this communication is not going to be set up, then we won't be able to leverage AI, or I should rather say that we won't be able to experiment on the artificial intelligence piece, because you will get to know in the end that I always recommend that at least one should try and sandbox. Okay, one should try and test that, yes, this AI platform is useful for me. Just boiling the whole ocean would not help. So that's what I was saying, that if our platforms are not compatible, Okay, our infrastructure is not compatible. That means it is going to be a very slower experimental or innovation cycle, which is definitely going to result into higher operational costs because it is going to consume a lot of time. Your resources, your highly paid resources, your highly skilled resources, they would be involved in setting up the whole infrastructure. They would be busy in connecting the dots, connecting the data sources, integrating all the platforms. But since the infra is not ready for this whole operation, that means somewhere where we can just spend, let's say 15 minutes, we may be spending 2 days. So that means our overall costs are getting increased. Now, third thing is when the infrastructure is very much traditional, that means our system is vulnerable and it is highly at risk. I would say highly at high amount of risk. So security gaps would be there. And eventually, if security is not in place, if we are experimenting in a very slower process, if we are investing heavily on cost but not getting the desired results, that means it's a poor performance. Okay. And that's why what I have said that many AI initiatives fail not because the AI models are bad, but because the infrastructure becomes the bottleneck. Why open source is central to AI. So now I had been saying this thing from a long time that many of the AI frameworks, many of the open source platforms, I would say, they are correlated, right? Linux, Python, Spark, Kubernetes are microservices, Dockers, and everything. Okay, so open source, hence, it becomes a catalyst. It becomes a central point or a central terminal, I would say, or a hub for your AI workloads. Now, when we talk about Windows, see, and I would want to make it very clear that talking about Linux does not mean that I'll be belittling the importance of Windows. I would not do that because I'm myself utilizing Windows. We are talking about Azure. Azure is a product of Microsoft. Windows is itself a product of Microsoft. But I can tell you something which is very much right, and it's a factual thing that open source gives you good amount of flexibility because many organizations who are not utilizing Windows based frameworks, Windows based applications, okay, they are very much utilizing, they are very much having custom built applications there. Now, custom build is definitely possible only on Linux, right? So you have a flexibility to make any application, any data source the way you want. You can design your own AI workload. Okay. You can design it as per the performance you want. You do not have to be sticking to just one vendor. Okay. You have a flexibility of a vendor neutrality. But this thing also needs that you should have a tightened security. Okay, a tightened security in place. Your server should be properly hardened. And since it's an open source, so at times these open source platforms are highly at risk. So that means your open source platform, after getting secured, after getting tightened with security and hardened with security, they should be reliable and supportive enough. So they should provide a necessary support that the client needs, and they should be reliable also. Okay. So this whole webinar is about this, that how can we ensure that your Linux platforms should be there on the infrastructure, which is very much ready for the trending Linux workloads and eventually for the artificial intelligence workloads. Now, why Azure for open source workloads? So it was a previous scenario that Azure used to have Windows only, but now it is no longer there. Now we can see that around 60, in fact, bit more than this, around 60% of the Azure workloads run on Linux. 60%, let's say. What are the business benefits of it? That all the clients who are utilizing any open source platform, Linux, RHEL, SUSE Linux, CentOS, I mean, it is no longer available, but Ubuntu, let's say. So they are utilizing the open source platforms, but are benefited by the Azure framework. They are benefited by the support systems which are provided by Azure. Okay, which is provided by Azure, and also they are able to scale these Linux-based workloads to any scale they want. The instances which are running at the backend, these instances are not limited only to Windows. They are easily available, and all the instances are available for Linux platforms also. And the captive or the Azure native compliance and governance and monitoring systems which are there, they are very much for the open source platforms also. Nowhere in Microsoft it is happening that Azure on Windows would provide a better support, better mechanism, better compliance and monitoring or governance or anything or scalability, but it is not providing on Linux. It is not the scenario. Linux is equally being the beneficiary. All the clients who are utilizing open source platforms, any open source platforms on Azure, they are being the equal beneficiaries of the Azure support systems and the services provided by Azure. So I completed this also, that we have natively available Linux support, managed open source databases. Yes. So when we say open source database, let's take an example of the very common one, MySQL. One scenario can be that you are utilizing MySQL on a virtual machine on Azure. So Azure will provide you equal support for your virtual machine. Okay. As well as if you want Azure to look after your deployed database also, then also you can utilize Azure services in form of managed databases. So your security updates, your patching, your overall management on the database will happen by Azure, and you would not be made aware that there was an issue which is now rectified. Everything will be looked upon by Azure. Then Kubernetes and container platforms. Azure has a vast amount of Kubernetes cluster provisioning support and the scalability on containers as well as Dockers also. Azure also bridges open source flexibility and enterprise stability. So when I say open source flexibility and enterprise stability, what does it mean? Can anybody write here? I mean, just in one line or two lines maybe, that what do I mean by this? When I say open source flexibility and enterprise stability. Okay, so considering the time limit, I would say that open source gives you a freedom to build anything. Okay, when we say a flexibility, that means it's very much free, it's very much flexible to use. Open source gives you a freedom or a flexibility to build anything. And when I say enterprise stability, so enterprise stability is for Azure. So Azure gives you that foundation. Okay. And when I say a foundation, that means an infra which is very much safe, which is very much stable, which is very much well governed and very much scalable. Okay. So simple thing is open source is the freedom to build anything, and Azure gives you that infrastructure to create your own freedom. Simple as that. Now, I had been talking about Azure, Linux, artificial intelligence. Now, how can AMD be one of the leveraging touch point for your Azure infrastructure, whereupon you can build your Linux platform, your open source platform, which in turn can help you build your AI workloads. Okay. So simple thing, it's very simple. And I know just after this slide, what questions would be coming in your mind, but I'll be able to answer, I'm sure. So from a business perspective, if we say, so AMD gives you a better price performance, and it also gives you a better compute density. It gives you a better compute density per buck, okay, per rupee or a dollar. overall it gives you a lower total cost of ownership for your workloads. From a technical standpoint, if I say, so I say more core density I talked about. So in a overall um, processor, okay, all the codes are residing inside a processor. So AMD provides you with more amount of cores in your processors, okay, which in turn that means for your parallel workloads, for multiple processing of your functions of your applications, AMD can help you with. And just understand in a way, okay, just hold on for a while. Let me complete this. Strong memory bandwidth. So AI is something which is very much dependent on your backend data. And when in case we need to extract a good amount of data or fetch good amount of data, we need a good memory in place. We need a good memory bandwidth. So hence AMD is something which provides you better compute and better memory. And let me tell you, more compute and less amount of memory or highest amount of memory and very small amount of compute, these things do not function when it's about artificial intelligence. Both of them go hand in hand. They both have to complement each other. Then only your infrastructure will be ready for artificial intelligence. Hence, AMD had this thing in mind that they need to provide better core density and strong memory bandwidth. And ideally, AMD is been created for your analytics, for your artificial intelligence and Linux workloads only. Okay. So now this is not about a brand, it's about efficiency. Okay. And efficiency at scale. Now, there can be certain questions that why not Intel, why AMD, why you are talking about AMD only? We are using Intel and we are facing no problem. So I can tell you one thing that we also provide Intel based virtual machines. Okay. And they are not at all lesser or more than AMD. Both these have different use cases and both are extremely powerful platforms. Okay. Now, why AMD? Why I'm talking about AMD here? So there are certain decision factors, okay, which can help you understanding that yes, AMD can be a better fit. So when we talk about parallel workloads, that means multiple processings are going on. So AMD would be a strong fit here. Why? Just because of the first reason, better core density, higher core density. Okay. When I say performance, these two, AMD and Intel, they would provide you good performances only. But every organization would also want that, yes, if I'm achieving 80% performance on AMD and 80% performance on Intel, but AMD is providing me better pricing. If you can read the second line from the business perspective, it says that more compute per rupee or dollar. Okay. So that means AMD will give you a better price performance for any workload. That's why AMD. And yes, we also sell Intel and there are different use cases. And basically, when we talk about legacy based applications, okay, legacy based applications or more of the closed systems based applications, then Intel systems are there. But when we talk about open source platforms, okay, then AMD is the strongest fit. Moving on to the next slide. Migrating open source workloads the right way. So here migrating would not be just about your rehosting, which we call lift and shift. We need to understand that what our existing infrastructure is. Okay. What are existing infra and what are the underlying infrastructure? What are the underlying platforms which are there? Okay. Linux is there. Okay. Latest Dell server or HP server or AWS server or maybe Azure server is there. But we need to modernize our platform also. That Linux is on the version is running with the version which was announced 10 years ago. So 10 years ago, wala system running on the latest infrastructure, this is going to be a compatibility issue. So firstly, we need to assess what is existing. Then we need to identify which thing can be easily moved to Azure, which can be easily moved, migrated, or modernized. Okay. And yes, it is written modernize selectively. Now, what is going to be a business outcome out of it? That since we are starting slowly, we are assessing one at a time. That means we are going to have a very reduced risk of downtime. Okay. No unnecessary downtime would be there. No business loss would be there. And we'll be able to yield a better ROI in a better amount of time. Okay. Technical perspective, that rehost where it makes sense. As I covered it before, refactor where value actually exists. So that means rehost wherever the workloads allow us to host them on Azure, maybe from on-prem to Azure, and then refactor, that means modernize where you can immediately find a good value. Our business compliance wants that certain applications should be modernized. Okay, let's suppose anybody out of here, they are a quick commerce based organization or a e-commerce based organization. There are certain workloads which are on monolithic. Now, due to the high client demand, due to high traffic there on our websites or applications, we want that these amount of critical applications should be migrated and modernized on immediate effect. Okay. So there, if we refactor them, if we modernize them in a gradual process, it is going to give us a good amount of value. I would not say that today, if they say migrate 50 applications or modernize them by tomorrow, no, this is going to be a wrong approach. We need to assess each and every workload on the basis of criticality. That which one is highly critical, which one is intermediate level critical, which one is least critical, like that. Building an AI ready Linux foundation. I covered this thing in pieces in some of the back slides also. So an AI ready Linux foundation includes standardized VM images, be it compute intensive virtual machine, be it memory intensive, be it general purpose virtual machines. We have all AI ready based Linux virtual machines available. Okay. Secure access models. I covered it in the beginning that every Linux platform must be tightened with security and hardened highly. And then scalable storage, because data is the backbone for this enterprise ready infrastructure, for the desired results, for the analytics, right? So we need to have a scalable storage in place on our infrastructure. Business benefits would be consistency across teams. All the teams would have a consistency there within the system. Okay. Like one team at a time, second team, and third team. So firstly, all the teams can have a single source of data. Okay. Single source of truth, I would rather say. Then all the teams can be a good beneficiaries of the AI projects that will be building in any of the organization. Technical benefits, VM scale sets, scalable VMs, okay, managed disk, network isolation and security controls. So overall security of your data, of your infrastructure and your network. Okay, because I talked about open source are at times highly vulnerable to attacks, highly vulnerable to hacking. So we need to provide them the preventive measures and the required security and network controls. Modern architecture equal to better performance. Definitely, I agree to this, because infrastructure modernization, it's not very much cosmetic that, okay, just to show off or just after hearing somebody or just after listening to multiple webinars or listening to any of the podcasts available, technical podcasts, we can just simply adopt the modernized platforms or artificial intelligence. No, I said it just 2 slides back that first we need to assess what is running there. Okay. Then based on the assessment only we can adopt. Okay. But yes, this is very much a fact and a truth that the older any architecture or any framework gets and they get very monolithic in nature, it is very difficult to manage them with respect to scalability, with respect to their security and overall performance. So that's why modern architectures are very much modular in nature. Okay. They are very much cloud native. They are very much AI friendly. That means overall compatibility issues with respect to third party applications, with respect to APIs, with respect to multiple data platforms or AI platforms, there are no problems. They face very least amount of problems there. Whereas when we talk about the legacy systems, at times they are not ready for any integration. And eventually, our business impact on this, what are the implications on our business? Good, I think positively. Being very optimist here that faster insights, your users will be very much happy. Okay. Overall operational stress. Why? Because their queries, whatever the queries they have, I mean, not in terms of questions, in terms of whatever ask, whatever requirements they have, they'll be able to receive them and deliver them in a short span of time, in a shorter span of time, I would say. Okay, that's why your users would be happier. Security, monitoring, and operations. So AI increases risk if governance is weak, if monitoring is weak. So security ideally must be built in, not bolted upon. So that's why Azure. Okay. That's why when I said that every service is captive, we are not dependent on any third party for the monitoring or for governance or for any security. We have our inbuilt security services with respect to Defender, with respect to DDoS protection, with respect to web application firewall, overall a good amount of security posture services. Then proactive monitoring, yes, we do provide that. Automated operations, yes, using automation, we do provide automation services wherein you can simply scale your infrastructure just in a click. Okay. Then what is the business value? Reduce outages. Your overall infrastructure is ready for any audit, any ad hoc audit, and peace of mind for your leadership. That is the most important thing out here. From infrastructure to innovation. So infrastructure, I'd been talking about it, modernize it. I would not say that it should be the last goal. Okay. Our eventual goal is to adopt the latest trending technologies for your data. Data is the new oil. Everybody must have heard. Why is it an oil? Because it is going to drive the overall globe, overall people in near future. And yes, when I say near future, that means it's near future. So infrastructure should be ready to adopt AI. Artificial intelligence is going to give us better business results. Okay, better decision making power, better decision making insights to us. Okay, that's why our real goal is faster innovation, data driven decisions, competitive advantage. AI ready infrastructure enables experimentation. I touched it in the beginning. Rapid scaling, exorbitant amount of scaling can happen as our data grows, as our business grows. We should be ready for any amount of scaling. Then confident execution, any platform, any workload on AI, on data, it can be easily executed. Okay. And with the full conviction and confidence. So simply understand that Azure is not going to be your any hosting platform. That we are not asking you that, okay, leverage Azure, spin up a virtual machine, and yes, you are done for everything now. No, we are asking you to innovate your infrastructure on Azure. Right now, you're on virtual machines, try them for containers, try them for microservices. Okay, after I'm saying from monolithic to microservices like that. Then once you have adopted some bit of technology, try them for data engineering, try them for analytics, try them for overall artificial intelligence framework. So that's how you can easily innovate. I would say you can make your infrastructure modular in nature and ready to compete in the whole world. Okay. Then key summary of the overall webinar that we have been a part of, that AI success depends on infrastructure readiness. Yes, this is the, I think everybody would be bored after this, that I'd been talking about it from so long. Open source is central. but needs enterprise grade platform. So open source is we can say it's a backend platform, but when I say enterprise grade platform, that means the infrastructure. Azure plus AMD provides you performance, scalability, cost efficiency, and yes, migration. And I should have added modernization also. Migration or modernization, if done right, it unlocks artificial intelligence platforms for you. It does not intend to disrupt your overall environment. So now every IT individual, they should, they must, in fact, they must assess the current open source landscape, what they have. They should identify what workloads um, can be beneficiaries of this migration, modernization, or any Azure adoption strategy. And as I said in the beginning, a jargon or a whole line that don't boil the ocean completely. Start with a test, start with a pilot. Take out any small pilot project, start it, try to adopt Azure for your open source platforms. Okay. And build it today for you where you want to be for tomorrow. Okay. Whatever you build today is going to help you scaling, will help you in expanding and enhancing your overall infrastructure. So now that's it from my end. I'll stop sharing, but please, if you can scan this QR code and provide your feedback, it would be very much good for us.